Greetings, ladies and melogents, and welcome to this latest narration of the web series History of the Soul War. If you're new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 5.5, Lecture Notes 1 through 5. The Soul War History Student Recruits. Below are the questions I've been asked after the lectures or via extranet mail. They are answered in no particular order. I hope these help with note-taking and additional research. I'll also take this opportunity to remind the class, this is not an exam-based course, but you'll be graded on coursework. I expect your first drafts to be submitted before next lecture. What are angel's teeth? Angel's teeth are a human weapon, banned due to the fact that they can be highly indiscriminate. In principle, they are a small blade of material no more than 15 centimeters in length, with an extra 3 centimeters of control fins at the end, dropped from high in the atmosphere, either from a flying vehicle, a ship in low orbit, a missile, or even deployed by a satellite. They lock on to a pre-programmed mission. In the Soul War, the humans lock them onto a specific frequency of the Federation used for communication. Due to the extreme velocities reached, the high accuracy and air friction heating the blade itself became a highly effective armor-penetrating dart that is capable of punching through most non-armored buildings and most armored vehicles and devastating soft tissue. This, combined with the tiny size and high speed, makes it very hard to intercept. Humans outlawed it due to the fact that it deployed in an area with any civilians or non-combatants, it is highly possible for them to be caught in the lock-on. The examples humans give is that their civilian communication devices can output the same frequency signals as their military communication devices. Can humans replace their brain with cybernetics? Well, it is possible. A large portion of the human population, 95%, dislike replacing any of their brain with machinery. While most of them have some kind of implant or additional augment to their central nervous system, such as a universal translator or other day-to-day tools, very few are willingly to replace any part of their brain with cybernetics. The most common claim is that they feel less human and not themselves. Of the remaining 5%, almost all of these have small cerebral cybernetics, either due to work, such as military pilots making use of direct neural interface or such, or to enhance basic functionality, such as the optic memory core to record everything they see perfectly. There is, however, a tiny fraction of humanity that is fanatical about these upgrades, replacing as much of themselves as possible. How do humans handle mental trauma compared to the Federation species? Humans are a highly diverse species. Some humans, like Colonel Vanaheim, appear to be almost immune to mental trauma, shrugging off traumatizing events as if they mean nothing. In other cases, humans have been known to suffer such bad mental trauma that they cannot function in normal society. In this regard, it is hard to place humanity on a scale of mental resilience. For example, most humans would be less resilient than an Ordine to mental trauma. However, there are some humans who would laugh at the things that would make an Ordine want to hide in its nesting web for the rest of its life. What actions were taken to piss off the humans? I applaud the use of human phrase. I do, however, wish to remind students to keep such phrases to appropriate class, or amongst friends. As mentioned in Lecture 4 and 5, rogue elements of Tolsec broke rules set forth by humanity to ensure the war did not cause undue harm to those not involved. What ended the war? Since we'll be covering the Federation withdrawal from Terran space in our lectures, I'll not be specifically covering that. However, the Soul War officially ended 5 years after that, when humanity had finished dealing with the rogue elements and ensuring no further breaches to their rules would take place. This also involved humanity recapturing specific rogue elements that continued to prosecute the war against the Tolsec, claiming vengeance for the actions the rogue elements took during the war before the Federation withdrawal. How did humanity catch up with the Federation with regards to interstellar warfare? I am unable to answer this question personally. However, I forwarded it to a university naval warfare professor. His response is as follows. Humanity had a highly different approach to interstellar warfare to the Federation. The Federation made use of plasma, ion, and particle weapons. The optimum ranges of these weapons before energy dissipation and traversal time rendered them ineffective. Thus, most Federation interstellar battles prior to the Soul Wars were prosecuted at ranges of 4,000 to 6,000 kilometers, primarily using ships of a moderate size to maintain a suitable combination of firepower and maneuverability for all ships. Terran warfare, however, was highly different. The Terran battle fleet functioned in two very different manners. First was the humanity calls the front line. This is the line of mixed-size ships, super-heavy dreadnoughts of immense firepower and armor. This provides the Terran fleet with immense survivability. These dreadnoughts often carry with them interceptors, tiny 1- or 2-man ships that are made to slip past enemy defenses and shields, damaging critical components. Mixed in with these dreadnoughts are the ships of the line. These are ships of tonnage closer to our own cruisers. These can have any array of weapons or even tactical support devices aboard, ranging from electronic countermeasure devices to advanced targeting systems to aid with the rear-line ship support. All of the ships, however, are armed to some degree. Most of the dreadnoughts are armed with a spinal weapon, titanic weapons mounted along the entire spine of the ship. Those that are not replace it with an even larger launch base for more fighters and bombers. The human term for these ships are fleet carriers, an apt name. The human armament for the frontline ships consisted of kinetic weapons in the form of coil guns, chemical propellant weapons, both unguided and guided missiles, and rail guns. The Federation ships built to turn away ionized energy blasts and particle weapons were shockingly ineffective against such measures. Humanity lacking shields, at least till the 8th year of the Soul War, meaning that only the dreadnoughts could withstand Federation weapons. The human fleet had two further lines, an array of what humanity called picket ships, which we were told were supposed to prevent any breakthroughs from reaching the rear line support ships. They were, however, never needed due to the resilience of humanity's dreadnoughts. The rear line ships were called support ships. We at first assumed this meant that they carried the ammunition and Reaper drones for the frontline ships. While this was true, it was not their primary function. They were primarily what humanity called destroyers, lacking armor or any real defenses beyond the picket ships and some interceptor fighters. The destroyer's main role was to provide unparalleled firepower to human forces. This line of ships sat well beyond 10,000 kilometers away from the humans' front line. They were armed with railguns and directed energy weapons. The railguns, unlike the spinal weapons of the destroyers, were not meant for close combat. Unable to fire rapidly or use large cluster-based submunitions. They, however, had such high acceleration that each shot covered the distance between human rear lines and the front lines in just over a second. The devastation of such firepower was terrifying. The directed energy weapons were also irregular. Rather than firing plasma or particles, the human energy weapons rather unleashed coalesced light at such high frequencies that it superheated the outer hull of a ship, causing it to either suffer a system failure or lose the ability to participate in the fight meaningfully. The Federation forces only succeeded in pushing through the human fleet due to the fact that the human fleet was outnumbered and they had no defenses against plasma and particle weaponries beyond sheer thickness of armor. The human fleet was forced to pull back and retreat from Earth. However, they would launch raids against any ship that remained in orbit of Earth for too long. Thus, neither fleet could gain true orbital superiority, at least till the 8th year. What happened to the Torsek home planet? Several of you asked me this question in various forms. Several human rogue elements took it upon themselves to take revenge for the atrocities committed by the Torsek rogue elements. While the Federation fleet was still recovering from the Soul War, the human rogue elements jumped into the Torsek home system and overwhelmed the local defense fleet. Once they had established orbital superiority, they seeded the atmosphere with various fissile materials. The Torsek homeworld had an atmospheric composition of about 38% oxygen, with a further 12% ozone in the general atmosphere, ignoring the ozone layer. The human rogue elements took advantage of this and introduced various chemical primers to the atmosphere. The seeding was done via deployment of several advanced cluster munitions. Once the seeding was complete, the rogue elements ignited the planet's atmosphere. Every living creature on the planet, every plant, every structure burned. The oceans boiled, and the water vapor was at such high temperature that it became unstable and split back into H2 and oxygen before burning away again. The free carbon in the atmosphere caused the free oxygen to become carbon dioxide. The rogue human elements then jumped away from the planet. The planet burned for half a solar cycle before finally dying away. Some Torsek attempted to survive in bunkers and shelters. However, the shelter's composite armor or the bunker's blast doors melted due to the temperature. No living creature survived on the planet. which is now a barren ball of ash, incapable of supporting life. What is an owl? An owl is an orbital weapon lancet. It is a general name humans give to their orbital weapon delivery system. A orbital satellite has several large lancets mounted on it, hollow tubes that can be loaded with any munition the humans see as suitable. These may range from angel's teeth to be deployed into the upper atmosphere, to simple chemical explosives that go off when the lancet impacts with the ground. In the image that was made use of in the lecture, the munitions the humans deployed was a cluster munition, with each bomblet containing a hyper-low-yield nuclear warhead. This effect was localized and devastating. Owls themselves were not outlawed, however a large portion of the warheads made for them were. What do humans call other species? Another question I am unable to ask. However, I have passed the question over to the xenolinguists professor, and the response I got was as follows. Humans have a habit of giving other sapient species nicknames after flora and fauna of their home planet. For example, they call the trical lobsters due to our large claws, hardened outer shells, and antennae. However, human lobsters are red in coloration, unlike our own, by human coloring, brown coloration. The following list is from my own research in human colloquialisms. Ordine tend to be referred to as sex or bugs, which appears to be shortening of insects, or the colloquial term for such creatures. This is likely due to their compound eyes and exoskeletal structure. Shockingly, Ordine and human insects use the same motor functions for larger limbs, with hydraulic pressure being part of the musculature. Scythians are often called jellies or slugs due to their lack of hard exoskeletal structure and semi-liquid nature. This, combined with their method of locomotion, makes them akin to terran mollusks. However, human mollusks are a solid brown color rather than the semi-translucent oranges and reds of the Scythians. Korsks strangely lack any unified nicknames amongst humans. This may be because of their semi-humanoid appearance with 2 arms and 2 legs. However, the most common term for them is bendies. This is likely due to the fact that the Korsk species do not have joints in the same manner as humans, but rather have sections of their body where their bones are connected by highly flexible tissue membranes, thus making them hyperflexible when compared to humans. These are the most common names for the sapient species within the Federation. Individual humans, however, are likely to have their own names for each individual they personally know. How much of the human population survived the war? This specific number of survivors is unknown. However, it is estimated that 25% survived. A large portion of that population was within the Jupiter orbital ring, which were primarily ship engineers and research crew. The remaining population was split between the military population that survived on Earth and Mars, and Station Earth, which housed the remaining non-military population. At the end of the Soul War, it is estimated that more than 40% of human population were either military or military associated. It is worth noting, however, the population of Jupiter's orbital ring alone numbered in the several billion. It is estimated that the number of casualties lost in the actions of the rogue elements number in the tens of billions. In the 2 centuries that followed it, it is believed that humanity expanded rapidly, making use of the space they had and incentivizing large birth rates. Currently, humanity is considered to have recovered from such an atrocity. They, however, show no inclination to slow down their current growth. What is humanity's current relationship with the Federation? The Unified Conglomerate of Human Systems, or the UCHS, currently operates under a truce with the Federation. The terms of this truce leave room for individuals or corporations to strike their own trade agreements. However, there is a hard military boundary between the two. It has been over a century since a human military vessel entered Federation space, and over a century and a half since a Federation military vessel entered the UCHS space. What was the Federation's goal when invading the Sol system? The Federation's initial goal was not an invasion, as any student should be aware. The Federation first offers invitation to any fledgling FTL species to become a vassal for the Federation for a few centuries, before gaining full membership and being permitted a seat at the Council, all while being protected by the Federation from other stellar empires that would want to exterminate a fledgling species for one reason or another, only resorting to invasion when threatened, as they were in the case of the humans. However, this has only occurred a few times in Federation history, and each time it was only a few solar cycles before the fledgling species saw the logic and intelligence of joining the Federation. Best regards, military history lecturer Raegar. This extranet mail, and together with its attachments, is for exclusive and confidential use of the addressees and may contain legally privileged information. Any use, disclosure, or reproduction without the sender's explicit consent is unauthorized and may be unlawful. Any email content, including any attachments, may be monitored and used by the Federation for reasons of security and for monitoring compliance with the Federation's policy. End of chapter. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Cold War Boomerwaffen, Sevaren Serberous, Bushmaster 177, Henry the Red, Casper Arnholtz, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Elijah Silvercross, Dragzoon W.R.E, and Sevaren Serberous. Thank you very much.